This video series discusses the link between Corecon and Sage 50 Canada integration. By downloading the program to your desktop and creating the preferences and the information needed to set up Sage 50 Canada and make it available to the CoreconLink, you're in effect creating a bridge for information to flow to and from Sage 50 Canada. You'll notice on this business process diagram, this is illustrated. The box on the left in blue is representing the information that flows through Corecon and how it gets there. And the information on the right in the green box represents the information as it appears in Sage 50 Canada. You'll notice that some of the lines have arrows pointing both directions and others are only pointing one direction. In this case, you can see that customers and vendors can be updated between the two softwares. And when some information is updated on one side, you'll be prompted to update that same information on the other. So for example, if you updated an address in vendors in Sage 50 Canada, the next time the CoreconLink process is run, you'll be prompted to make the similar change in the Corecon side. The same is true with the employees. If information is updated on the Corecon side, you'll also be prompted to update that on the Sage 50 Canada side. So in effect, you're creating a bridge between two softwares by using another program called the CoreconLink. The CoreconLink is a program that also bridges information because Corecon is an online software. Sage 50 is a desktop software. For that reason, the CoreconLink program also is a desktop program and does need to be downloaded to your desktop to work effectively. In this training video, we're going to be talking about the information needed to set up the Sage 50 Canada side of this bridge. The first part we want to address is the chart of accounts. There's a couple accounts that need to be set up and need to be set up with an appropriate account type so that they will work with the CoreconLink program. In Sage 50 Canada, the chart of accounts can be edited and changed or viewed using the main menu, Company, and then coming down to the icon where just below it says Chart of Accounts. I'm going to go ahead and view accounts and just point out a few of these that are needed for this CoreconLink. The first would be a checking account. You'll also notice as we go through here, each of these accounts is a account group, not a sub-account. The first is a checking account. The next would be the accounts receivable and holdback receivable. If we scroll down a little bit farther, the next would be the accounts payable. Again, the account type is a group, not a sub-account. There's a holdback payable. You may need to create this one. It doesn't usually appear when you download the chart of accounts provided by Sage. There's also your credit cards, if you're going to be tracking credit cards using the miscellaneous expense features in Corecon. If we scroll down a little bit farther, there's also at least one reference to sales tax that we'll need to create. And finally, we'll need at least one contract or construction revenue account and cost of goods sold or cost of construction account. To show the account types needed, I've already downloaded a chart of accounts into an Excel spreadsheet, which includes the column heading for the account type. It should be able to isolate those that we need to see without having to look through all of them. You can see a couple things from this. First of all, the account suggested. There's also an account number. We do prefer that you use account numbers. That each one of these accounts is a group, not a sub-account. And also there's very specific account classes that we need to assign. So a bank account, for example, needs to be in a bank account type. Accounts receivable. A holdback receivable needs to be an other receivable. And similarly, holdback payable also needs to be an other payable. So you can see that these account classes or account types are important in Corecon and CoreconLink to Sage 50 Canada. And we'll come back to these in a little bit. The one thing that I do want to point out is that the cost of goods sold accounts, there's a couple different ways to organize these. I actually included one that we can use a couple different ways. One is just to use a single cost of goods sold account, which I'm going to represent with 5020. I also could decide to post detail in my Sage 50 Canada by cost resource or cost type, which is material, labor, equipment, subcontract, and other. So I've also included those 5 as well, and we'll cover that in the next video. Back over to Sage 50 Canada. The next step is we're going to create a few service items, and these are going to represent the information or part of the bridge that CoreconLink will use to determine where information is posted, on which GL account is posted in your Sage 50 Canada software. So we're going to just go to Inventory and Services, and then the icon here, Inventory and Services again, and we're going to click Add an Inventory or Service. Now, in each case, these are going to be service items. So we're going to want to switch this type from inventory to service. And we're going to go ahead and just fill in a few blanks here. Now I use the 2 numbers 0 and 0 before these first couple because I want them to sort to the top of the list when I'm creating the CoreconLink and the preferences in the CoreconLink. It just makes them easier to find. So I'm going to call this first one 0, 0, capital C, capital U, lowercase n, lowercase c. And we're going to call this cost codes unclassified. And I might even put in here Corecon. If you've been using your service items for something else, sometimes it's nice to just differentiate them so you remember where they came from or why they're there. Also, to remind you not to erase them for any reason. Then I want to go over also to the linked tab, and I want to select my revenue account. I can pull that down. We see it right there. It's a sales account, or I could use the construction revenue. I'm going to use construction revenue. And in this case, I'm just going to use the generic cost of goods sold, cost of construction. And then I'm going to, I could click Save and Close, but I'm going to click Create Another. If we were to create service items that represent the divisions in the master cost code list in Corecon, we would also use the same entry screen. We're going to use, again, a service item, for example, and we'll use the numbering similar to the CSI 2012 to 2016, which are these 6 digits, and I'll just put in the description. And just go ahead and put in another. And you can see the items are starting to appear here. We'll come back to the different types of detail that we can choose to use between Corecon and our Sage 50 Canada in another video. Another point to make on the Sage 50 Canada side is the projects. Corecon will create new projects as customers, and under those customers, individual projects. Since there is no way to import projects that are existing in your Sage 50 before you started using Corecon, those would have to be created on the Corecon side and then linked manually. Again, something we'll cover in another video. However, the new projects entered in Corecon that are not already in your Sage 50 Canada version will be created by Corecon using the CoreconLink. And when they do, that'll be a customer, and each customer will have a project or projects, and the number of that project is a combination of the project number and the contract number that comes over from Corecon. Since Corecon does not offer a job import option, you may need to create the jobs in Corecon and then link them manually to a customer and project on the Sage 50 accounting side. Newly awarded projects will be set up in Corecon V8 and then exported to the accounting system. The client referenced in the prime contract form will become the customer, and the combination of the project and the prime contract numbers will be the job number in Sage 50 Canada. Now that I have at least one of these service items entered manually, there's an easy way to be able to import the rest of these directly into Sage 50 Canada so they don't have to be manually entered. So what I'm going to do is go up to File, go to Import Export, and down to Export Record. I'm going to choose the records to a Sage 50 import file format, and I'm going to pick Inventory and Services. We're going to just give it a name just to save it temporarily. And I'm just going to save it to my desktop so I can find it in a few minutes very easily. And then click Next. And so we have already a few of these in here. I'm going to use these as the sample, or I could select all. And I'm going to click Next again. And so now we have that. Let's go take a look at what we created. To do that, we're going to have to open that file that we created and change the Excel file format to all file types, because this is going to show up here as a text document or a CSV document. We'll just open that up and see what that looks like. To open in Excel, it's going to ask us how we want this to be formatted, and we're going to choose Delimited. Step 1 of 3 in this Microsoft Excel wizard, and then click Next, and I'm going to unclick Tab, and I'm going to click on the comma and then click Next, and I want to leave this formatted as text. This is the column with the cost codes in them, and then click Finish. So what it did is it just created a template, export template that we can use to re-import the rest of these items, and we have to leave this exactly as it appears, including this tab at the bottom, how this is named. The file format is going to end up being file save as, and we're going to change this. We can leave this as text, or we can move this down to CSV, which is comma delimited, and we're going to click Save again. Now I'm just going to go to another spreadsheet that I already have. You could find these in Corecon's help, and I'm going to copy out all of these cost codes. Now I'm only going to bring these in at the division level, and I'm just going to paste these right here. All right, we've already got these first 3, so we can leave those. We'll just take those out for now, and we're also going to just copy these down. Now notice that this is a service item, not an inventory item. That's exactly how it exported it. And we also have the GL accounts already. There's no column headings. There is a little header up here. When you export this, this will be your product number of your Sage 50 Canada software. And the other information we're just going to leave the way it is so that it re-imports automatically. There's no column headings. There is information in the help that you can look at if you'd like to know what these different items are. But we're just going to import all of these. And I'm only going to bring in the ones down to division 33. So I'm going to take these out as well. Now we're going to cover in the next video a different a way of tracking detail instead of cost codes. And I'm just going to go ahead and add those items now. And I'm going to call them 00 MAT, and this will be for materials. 00 LAB, and I use the 00 just so it sorts to the top when we're doing the CoreconLink preferences. And maybe we should call this material costs. So this is when we're gonna call this labor costs, and we'll call this equipment cost. Contractor costs, and other. One of the options is to be able to create cost detail instead of by job cost code, it will allow us to create those cost detail by the cost resource or cost type, which in this case is material, labor, equipment, subcontract, and other. Okay, so we're just creating the items and the codes, and these are set up exactly the same way, so I'm just going to copy these down. All right. And then again, we're going to leave the tab description exactly the way. We're going to leave the header exactly the way it exported, and we've already created this one, so we can take that one out as well. We'll import the rest. Even though we've already got these first three in there, we're going to re-import and overlay those right over top of what we already have. All right, I'm just going to click File, Save, and again, if I hit File, Save As, you're going to see that it's a CSV file, so it's comma delimited. I'm just going to click the Save button and then close that. Now if I go back into the file, and right now notice there's the 4 that we've already created, but I'm going to go back into File, Import Export, Import Records. I'm going to do this in the Sage 50 import format. Click Next. And usually you're going to want to back up before you do this. It's reminding you to do that. I just backed up a moment ago, so I'm not going to do that now, but usually you'd want to make sure you have a good clean backup before you do this. And click Next. And we're just going to come down here to the inventory line, click Browse, and we're going to go out to my desktop, and there's that item. It's a CSV file format type, and click Open. And now that it's going to click Next, and here it's just showing us that they've all come in successfully, and click OK, and now here they all are in our inventory items. Again, they're service items, but they're under inventory. And the ones that I created for the material, labor, equipment, subcontract, other here, we'll go over that in the next video. And also all of the ones that we created that are by division only. These are the job cost codes by division only. And so we created those as well. The information we discussed in this video can be found in Corecon help articles. If you go to the main help menu, go to CoreconLink Utilities, and then to Sage 50 Canada. The information we discussed today was under the Sage 2016 information to review before installing. That's the data setup recommendations. And that information can be found here. There's also additional links in here that you might want to take a look at. And we're going to cover this other information in the next video.